for a violent felony, which is the case for 2/3 of violent felons. For context, be aware that the majority of murder victims are criminal offenders too, a finding that has held true in big cities for half a century. A 2012 survey of New York murder victims found that 20% of them were on probation or parole or had an active arrest warrant, 10% were confirmed gang members, 71% had prior arrests, and so on. Only 1 in 5 male murder victims in New York did not have a prior arrest. If prior offenders make up 90% of our murderers and ghost guns are involved in less than 1% of our murders, why are we concentrating on the ghost guns rather than on the murderers? The tripartite answer, Williamson concludes, is politics, theater, and cowardice. Good point, Kevin. Let's ask our anti-gun legislators to give us a coherent answer to that. This is John McLaurie. Thanks for listening.
The World Newspaper's Shop Local is in full swing. Shopping local is more than a good idea. It's good for the whole community. Each week, the World will feature one of these local businesses so you can get to know them better. In Barrie, Mattress Land, Tucker's Machines, Barrie Tile, and Richard J. Wabi Jeweler. In East Barrie, Vermont Flannel. In East Montpelier, Bragg Farm and Delaire's Carpet and Flooring. And in Montpelier, Agway Farm and Garden. Support your local businesses. Shop local.
John Batchelor inviting you to join me weeknights at 9 for Eye on the World. This nightly news program is essential listening for those who seek to understand current events, global politics, economics, science, and literature. I'll speak with experts to offer context and insight. Eye on the World, weeknights at 9 on Vermont's news station, WDEV AM and FM, and streaming at WDEVradio.com.
Rick the Kid here from Lamoille Valley Ford. With gas prices on the rise, you need to listen to this special announcement. Tell them, Dan.
Folks, the car, truck, and SUV challenge is back and better than ever at Lamoille Valley Ford. This year, I'll challenge my 3 teams to sell and order over 700 vehicles by the end of April, and here's how we're going to do it. With the purchase, lease, or order of any new or pre-owned vehicle at Lamoille Valley Ford, you'll leave with a $500 fuel card today. You heard that right. Even if you have to wait for your ordered new Ford, you'll get a $500 fuel card. You can choose between a home heating fuel card or a gas card to be used at the pump. Plus, I want you to know that as one of New England's largest Ford dealers, we are prioritizing all of our special orders to get you your new Ford as fast as possible. And in the meantime, $500 of your fuel cost is on Lamoille Valley Ford. That's huge.
Thanks, Dan. If you don't want to wait, you'll find the largest selection of new and certified pre-owned Fords in the state, and all of them include a $500 fuel card. So drive Route 14, 15, or 16 to Hardwick, and the car, truck, and SUV challenge happening now. And remember, at Lamoille Valley Ford, we know price matters.
At Union Bank, we've been traveling the back roads and main routes of Vermont and New Hampshire for generations. So when it comes to mortgages, we know the local landscape and the best way to get you home. Union Bank, stay local, go far. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
Hi, everyone. This is Jess Langlois
and Chief Meteorologist Dan Dowling
from the Channel 3 Max Advantage Weather Team, reminding you that every day we are tracking the weather and getting you the most accurate forecast.
From the most experienced weather team tonight from 4 to 7 and at 11 p.m.
We forecast with straight talk and no hype,
so you can take advantage of the clear days
and have the advantage over stormy weather.
There's a 100% chance of accurate, experienced, and trusted forecast
tonight and every night from the Channel 3 Max Advantage Weather Team.
First in weather.
The Brady Farkas Show is produced and funded by WDEV and the Radio Vermont Group. We welcome listener feedback. Email your comments to wdev@radiovermont.com.
The teams you care about.
The Patriots are now closer to the bottom of the AFC than the top. That's a fact.
The stories that matter to you.
Trevor Story, man, he makes the Red Sox much, much better in 2022.
This is your home for New England sports.
I'm just wondering what happens next for UVM, because I think there could be a lot of turnover on that roster.
This is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
What's up, everybody? Welcome in Brady Farkas Show on a Thursday on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. Full show, all 90 minutes, right up until 7 o'clock. Tons to get to, as always. Very, very excited. In 15 minutes, we're going to talk to a guy I've never spoken to before. Former Patriots running back, 3-time Super Bowl champion, LeGarrette Blount is going to stop by. So we're going to talk to LeGarrette Blount at 5:45. We're going to discuss the pressure on Ime Udoka in these NBA playoffs, the pressure on Jason Tatum in the playoffs, what's real and what's fake in that regard. And we'll talk more about Rafael Devers as well. You can get in on the Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line. That's 802-585-3026. Your locally owned Napa stores in Waterbury and Morrisville. Also, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and my Twitter account as well. We'll take your comments anywhere you want to bring them in. So we go up until 7. Let's waste no time and get right to it.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And here we go.
The opening thoughts on the Brady Farkas Show brought to you by Sticks and Stuff and by Swanton Lumber. They are your most complete locally owned home center here in the state of Vermont. Locations in Enosburg, Derby, Middlesex, St. Albans, and at Swanton Lumber. They're online at sticksandstuff.com. Your Boston Red Sox are now caught between a rock and a hard place. They are caught between doing what is technically smart business, but what is also the wrong way of doing business. Let's examine the report that came out yesterday, late last night, on the Red Sox and their negotiations with Xander Bogaerts. We've talked a lot about Devers. We're going to talk more about Devers later. Let's talk about Bogaerts. So John Heyman of the Major League Baseball Network, he came out and said the Red Sox offered Bogaerts this spring a 4-year, $90 million extension. And Bogaerts' camp basically laughed in their face and said that this was a non-starter and it's not even worth countering at this point. Now, I will say this. We don't know right now if this report from John Heyman is true. Heyman has reported it, but there's been a lot of skepticism around this report from Red Sox insiders like Jared Carabas of DraftKings, Lou Merloni of WEEI in Boston. So I don't know if it's true officially, but let's just kind of play out the scenario and operate the assumption that it is true. And if it is true, the Red Sox are again in that really difficult space, operating between what is good business and what is the wrong way of doing business. So refresh your memory here. Xander Bogaerts currently, right now, has 3 years and $60 million left on his contract after this year, not including this year. 3 years, $60 million left. Now, we expect him to opt out, but if he didn't, in a hypothetical world, he'd have 3 years, $60 million. So this 4-year, $90 million extension really is just the 3 years that he has left plus one more and an additional $30 million. So basically, they're telling you, like, hey, if you're not going to opt in, we're just going to give you the exact same deal you would have had, but we'll tack on 1 year at $30 million. So that's where the 4-year, $90 million deal comes from. The 3 years and 60 he had left, plus 1 year and $30 million. And from the Red Sox perspective, they're thinking here, it really is smart business, is it not? Think about all the layers to this. Xander Bogaerts is going to be 30 years old. We know it's not really smart to pay guys huge money into their late 30s and 40s, so I get the Red Sox not wanting to give an 8-year deal, not wanting to give a 10-year deal. If they give Bogaerts a 4-year deal, well, they are ensuring a bunch of different things. They're ensuring that they get the absolute best remaining years of his career, so they don't have to pay him till he's 35, 40. We know that Bogaerts is not a great defensive shortstop, so they don't have to run him out there at 37 because he's got too much pride to move off the position. Maybe they can, deal with it until he's 34 or so. We know that they have an in-house option in Trevor Story, so they don't have to go exorbitantly long or exorbitantly expensive because we'll just give the position to Story. We know they got youngsters down on the farm, Jeter Downs. We know they got Marcelo Mayer coming up. And if you keep Bogaerts for just 4 years, well, you haven't blocked any of them from coming to the big leagues. So this all might just be smart thinking by the Red Sox, right? We're not going to pay a guy until he's 40. We're going to save some money so that we can pay Devers and sign some others, we hope, by not going $200, $300 million for Bogaerts. We don't have a shortstop who's 37 and can't move. We haven't blocked the kids. We've kept the door open for Story. Now, I'd quibble and say that Bogaerts, even in a 4-year deal, would deserve like $120 million. I mean, Alex Spear of the Boston Globe had a really good note where he said that Bogaerts' numbers the last 3 years dwarf every other offensive player who's gotten $100 million contracts. So I still think that $90 million is too low. So I can quibble about the number, but I can reconcile the thought process, right? I mean, giving him a 4-year deal in a lot of ways is smart business practice. I don't have an aging asset. I don't get the depreciating asset. I don't tie up a bunch of money in an aging asset. I don't block the young kids. It's smart business. But that said, what the Red Sox are allegedly doing here just also may be the wrong way of doing business. Xander Bogaerts is a pillar of the organization. He's been in the organization for nearly half his life. Xander Bogaerts has been in the organization since he was 16 years old. And I know it's not show friends, it's show business, but that degree of loyalty, that amount of longevity usually deserves a higher contract than what the Red Sox are offering right now. He's won 2 World Series. He's been a stalwart in your lineup. He's very, very durable. He's a fan favorite. And when a guy has battled for you and won with you and represented your organization with dignity and with class, that guy deserves to be taken care of and deserves to be not lowballed. So yes, the process by the Red Sox is smart, but it is bad business. Xander Bogaerts deserves better than this. He deserves more commitment than this in terms of years, and he deserves more money than this. I mean, a 4-year, $90 million deal is insulting in a world where 32-year-old Marcus Semien gets 7 for $175. A 4-year, $90 million extension is insulting in a world where Javi Baez gets 6 for $140. It's insulting in a world where Jose Ramirez gets a 5 for $125 extension. It's low on years. It's low on average annual salary. It's low across the board. And Xander Bogaerts deserves better. I know the Red Sox don't want to be stuck with a guy until he's 38. I get it. I do. I know you want to keep some money available for Devers or somebody else, but Bogaerts deserves better than this. If it's true, it is an insultingly low offer. He deserves at minimum the 5 for $125 that Jose Ramirez got. That's at minimum. You don't want to go 10 for $300 with him? Then sure. But the 6 for $140 that Trevor Story got, Xander Bogaerts is worth that in my mind. The deal that Semien got, 7 for $175, if we started it today and counted this year for it, then I would say that would be useful as well. Like, that would be fair as well, taking him until he's 36, not 39. I can reconcile the thought process. And if this were Nathan Eovaldi, a guy who is not a homegrown Red Sox player, a guy who is not a total fan favorite, a guy who hasn't been in the family since he was 16, then I could say, you know what? You want to offer Eovaldi a little lower than he probably deserves because you don't want to have a pitcher until he's 37. I can handle that. But Xander Bogaerts, he deserves a better contract offer in 4 years, $90 million. And for me, the Red Sox need to figure out exactly what they want. Because right now, they're partially dipping their foot in each pool, and they're not all the way in the deep end. They've got to figure out where they want to go into the deep end. If they want Bogaerts and they're content to let Devers leave, then they need to make an offer commensurate with Bogaerts' ability. If they're choosing Bogaerts over Devers, then go all in on Bogaerts. If you're choosing Devers over Bogaerts, then go all in on Devers and don't even make Bogaerts this insultingly low offer that you know he's going to turn down. And if you truly are trying to sign both, then be the Boston Red Sox of old and flex the financial muscle and get the deal done. What do you want to be? Who are you prioritizing? Because right now, you've insulted Devers' camp with a low offer, and you've insulted Bogaerts' camp with a low offer. You certainly didn't think that they were going to take these offers, I'd have to imagine. So if you really want one of them, then go all in. And if you really want both of them, then go all the way in. But you can't dip your toes in both ends, in both sides of the pool and never get in. You've got to eventually get in the pool. It is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. If you told me I had to choose one, then I would choose Devers. He's better long-term. He's younger. He projects to be better. He's a power hitter in a power-hitting game. If you gave me just one, I would choose Devers. But Bogaerts, if you're going to make him a contract offer, it's got to be better than this. 4 years, $90 million is insulting. It's insultingly low. In a world where Marcus Semion's going to be signed until he's 39, you won't give Devers or Bogaerts something beyond the age of 34. It's insultingly low on years. It's insultingly low on average annual value. 4 years, $90 million. That's certainly not chump change. But what is that now? That is like $22.5 million a year. In a world where Corey Seager gets $35 million a year, it's insultingly low there too. Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line 802-585-3026. Someone says, I wonder if people are going to accuse the Red Sox of being racist because they're giving more money to Bogaerts or they're giving more money to Story than they would to Bogaerts. I hadn't heard that. I haven't seen that. I don't think that that's going to be the case, but yeah, I suppose somebody could say it, but I have not heard this. Anthony says, are they doing this to have more money for Devers? Well, there you go. It's the same. I mean, yeah, it's what I just said. You got to figure out exactly who you want. You've got to figure out exactly who you want. You cannot lose both. If you want to be a World Series contender, you cannot lose both. Because, look, the Red Sox are going to lose, I imagine, J.D. Martinez. So he's going to be gone. So that productivity is going to be gone. Kike Hernandez is a free agent at the end of the year. He might be gone. Jackie Bradley's a free agent at the end of the year. He might be gone, and I would be fine with that. But you are going to have some money available here, but you're also going to lose a lot of pieces. So you can't afford to lose both of these guys. Go all in on somebody and give them the offer that they deserve. All right, when we come back, an interview that I'm very, very excited about. I've never spoken to him. LeGarrette Blount is going to stop by. Former Patriots running back, 3-time Super Bowl champion. Which Patriots Super Bowl memory stands out more to him? Malcolm Butler's pick or the 28-3 comeback over the Falcons? I want to ask him. I got all kinds of questions for LeGarrette Blount. He's with us next on WDEV.
Northfield Savings Bank is proud to sponsor WDEV at 90. Whether you're a builder, a maker, or a doer, at Northfield Savings Bank, we are proud to be the bank for Vermonters and Vermont businesses. Find out more about us at nsbvt.com. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
I chose Vermont Tech because it was affordable and the classes were small.
I've only ever heard good things about Vermont Tech, and one of them was the job placement rating was very high. That's always the end goal, right?
I want to graduate with a career, but not a lot of debt, and I can do that at Vermont Tech.
Why will you choose Vermont Tech? Maybe because 99% of Vermont Tech grads start careers or are pursuing advanced degrees right after graduation. Vermont Tech is a college in the Vermont state system, now with schools of engineering and computing, agriculture, plant and animal science, nursing and health professions, general education, and professional studies and management. If finding a good-paying job in your chosen field and graduating without a lot of debt is your goal, Vermont Tech can get you there. Find out more about academic programs and high placement rates. Meet faculty and tour campus at the Williston Campus Open House on November 9th. Register at vtc.edu. Small college, big outcomes. vtc.edu.
folks, Stan and Pat Keene here at Lamoille Valley Chevy. With gas prices on the rise, you need to listen to this special announcement. Tell them, Pat, the car, truck, and SUV challenge is back and better than ever. This year, we have challenged our teams to sell and order over 700 vehicles by the end of April, and here's how we plan to get there. With the purchase, lease, or order of any new or pre-owned vehicle at Lamoille Valley Chevy, you'll leave with a $500 fuel card today. You heard that right. Even if you have to wait for your ordered new Chevrolet, you get a $500 fuel card today. You can choose between a home heating fuel card or a gas card to be used at the pump. Plus, I want you to know that as the largest Chevy truck dealer in Vermont, we are prioritizing all of our special orders to get you your new Chevy as fast as possible. In the meantime, $500 of your fuel cost is on Lamoille Valley Chevy. Now, that's huge. Thanks, Pat. And folks, one more thing we want you to know is that you'll find one of the best selections of new and certified pre-owned Chevys in the state at Lamoille Valley Chevy, and all of them include a $500 fuel card. So drive just past Stowe and Morrisville to the beautiful town of Hot Park, Vermont, in the car, truck, and SUV challenge happening right now at Lamoille Valley Chevy.
Fall and winter is flu season. It takes about 2 weeks after getting a flu vaccine for your body to develop antibodies that protect against flu. So don't wait. Get yourself and your family vaccinated today. Learn more at cdc.gov/fightflu.
In decades past, you opened a business, hung out your shingle, and the customers came. Today, hanging out your shingle means creating an engaging website. The modern consumer is using the internet to find businesses like yours. Are you positioned so you'll rise to the top of their search? Let the Radio Vermont Group Digital Services work with you to make sure you're visible online and to target your marketing to location, demographic, and interest. Learn more at rvgdigital.com.
Your chance to be part of the show is on the text line at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. We are your home for Patriots football, and even in the offseason, Patriots football never sleeps. Let's go out to the phone line and bring on our next guest, a guy who was a pretty prominent part of multiple Patriots championship teams, former running back LeGarrette Blount. LeGarrette, thanks for being with us. How are you?
I'm good, man. How about yourself, man? I appreciate you guys having me on.
Well, appreciate you being with us. Look, parts of 9 seasons in the NFL, including parts of 4 seasons with the Patriots. You won 3 Super Bowls overall, 2 with New England, 1 against New England, and that one we like to forget about when you played with the Eagles. But you retired officially at the end of 2020. What are you up to now? I know you're doing some work for player health, kind of advocating for player health and trying to find new ways to keep players safe and healthy. What are you up to now?
Yeah, that's you hit it on the head, man. I'm just trying to figure out ways to keep guys healthy from the inside out. You know, my products are all natural, all organic, and 100% THC free. So I'm just trying to make sure guys know that this product is out there, and it's a healthier way to deal with pain and discomfort and, you know, bad sleep patterns and anxiety. You know, I have products for all of those things.
Well, you're working in the CBD space, and how important would it be to get your products into NFL locker rooms? Because we've heard the horror stories over the last couple of years about drug dependencies that players develop, the things players do to be able to play. How important would it be to get your products involved and get away from some of those things that shouldn't have never been happening in the first place?
I think it's really important because, again, you know, a lot of these things that guys are dealing with, or a lot of the problems that these guys are having is, you know, they're having problems with, you know, sleeping and anxiety and, you know, things like that. So I think this is the healthy way to deal with it, you know, outside of the opioids. You know, a lot of the pills that they give us to take, you know, for anxiety, for sleep, for pain, you know, these are pretty powerful pills. So, you know, obviously they're going to be highly addicting to some, especially people with that addictive personality. Is going to be, you know, it's going to be easy for them to not put the pill down after they start taking it. And I just wanted to make sure that these guys do that. This was a better option. This is a healthier option. This has no long-term effects. You know, 5-10 years down the road, you won't be worrying about having liver and kidney problems and, you know, things like that because of taking so many pills.
Well, LeGarrette Blount, former Patriots running back, his website is lgsfeelgood.com, and he's there to help athletes with aches, pains, injuries, mental health, and those unhealthy sleep patterns. And he's here with us on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV. Let's go to your career. You know, we hear so much about playing for the Patriots and how it's no fun and all that. What was your experience like in New England?
My experience was, I loved it. You know, I had a blast in New England. I'm not gonna lie. You know, a lot of guys don't enjoy it there because, I mean, I don't know if it's, you know, the work ethic or, you know, how hard you work, or the fact that you have to go out there and bring your lunch pail to practice every day, or, you know, whatever the case is. But my personal experience there, man, I loved it. There was, you know, I wouldn't trade it for the world. One big thing for me was just winning football. You know, I just wanted to win football games, and you know, there was no better place to win football games than New England while I was playing at the time. So I didn't mind the hard work. I didn't mind the grind. I didn't mind, you know, going through the rigorous, you know, training camp and things like that. So I enjoyed it. You know, there's guys that obviously say, you know, this place is uptight, man, you can't be yourself, and yada, yada, yada. Well, if being yourself, you know, entails just being, you know, on social media, TikTok and all that stuff, boy, I mean, this ain't gonna be the place for you. You know what I'm saying? Because it's business here. You know, they trying to win football games.
You know, after the Eagles, your Eagles, beat the Patriots, it was Lane Johnson who came out and said basically our way of doing things is the better way, and we had a lot of fun while winning. So obviously, like, there's more than one way to win in the NFL. What was the difference between that Eagles team and the culture that they played with versus your time in New England? How different was it?
It was extremely different, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, that just goes to show you that you can get to the same goal, you know, you can have the same goal and get to it in different ways. You know, and in Philly, it was more relaxed. It was more laid back. You could be on your phone. You could be on social media. You could, you know, clown and joke, you know, with the coach. Like, it, you know, and granted, you can do that in New England too, but you definitely got to know that there's a fine line in between it. So you got to straddle that whenever you're doing certain things or saying certain things or, you know, around certain people. So I think it was the fun aspect in Philly that was really attractive to a lot of guys, that made them like, oh, well, damn, they had fun while they was playing and winning championships. You know, and granted, we had a blast, but that's just another way around getting to the common goal, and that's winning a championship.
Have you been watching a lot of Patriots games since you left football? Have you kind of disconnected?
Oh yeah. Nah, I watch religiously. I'll never, you know, completely get away from the game. You know, I coach it with my son, and I watch it. So,
now, what do you think of the loss of Josh McDaniels, and how big is that for a young quarterback like Mac Jones as he heads into year 2?
Man, that's huge. Josh is, when it comes to offensive coordinators, Josh is. I feel like Josh is second to none. You know, he's been in the last couple of years since Brady left. He's been in a position to where he's having to try to switch things up offensively to fit the mold of whatever quarterback that he has, whether it's Cam or Mac Jones. And I think he does a really good job of that. You know, I think he did a really good job of implementing some things for Cam when Cam was there. I think he did a lot of good things, implementing some things for Mac since Mac has been there. You know, I think it'll be hard for any quarterback that has had Josh as an offensive coordinator to go be with someone else, because it won't be the same.
Former Patriots running back and 3-time Super Bowl champion LeGarrette Blount with us here on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. On that note, it looks like the Patriots are going to go offensive coordinator list this year, and they're going to have Matt Patricia and Joe Judge kind of tag team the offense, working with the offense. Those are two guys that we don't associate as being offensive minds. You as a player, how would you feel about an offense that's set up that way with no true coordinator?
I'm going to say that one thing about Bill, one thing that he did do is, if you're going to be an offensive coach, you're going to learn. If you're going to be an offensive coach, you're going to learn the ins and outs of defense first. You're going to know how to read them. You're going to know how to do, you know. And I think Matty P might have been an offensive coach at one point before he switched to defense. I think Josh might have been a defensive coach at once before he became a coordinator. These guys are, you know, they're pretty well dressed when it comes to just coaching in general. Obviously, Josh is a better offensive coordinator than he was a defensive coach. Obviously, Matty P is a better defensive coach than he is the offensive coach. And Joe Judge, no comment. I don't even know how he got on the offensive side of the ball to even be co-coaching any kind of, I don't know, man. Honestly, I don't know what's going on over there.
Yeah, we don't know what's going on either.
Bill must have something up his sleeve because, it just doesn't sound like, it sounds like a recipe for disaster, to be honest with you, with Matty P and Joe Judge calling the offense. It just don't sound like a good idea.
Well, we'll get you out of here on two questions, two quick ones. Which Patriot?
Tell them to come hire me. I'll call the plays.
I think a lot of fans would be okay with that as well.
Yeah, I'll call the plays. Damian Harris is gonna have a Pro Bowl year.
Hey, which Patriots Super Bowl win stands out for you more? The Malcolm Butler pick at the goal line against Seattle, or the 28-3 comeback against Atlanta?
I'm gonna say the Malcolm Butler pick on the goal line. I mean, that's you're talking about a dream. You're talking about like a dream type ending. That's the one.
We know a lot of the recognizable leaders in that Patriots locker room. Who was one of your favorite teammates that maybe we don't hear a lot about?
I'm gonna have to say one of my favorite teammates that we don't hear about while I was there. Probably Matthew Slater. Man, Slater, good dude, man. He a funny guy, down to earth, get his business done, he take care of everything on and off the field. He's a good dude, man, and I haven't met anybody that don't like him. Again, he's a positive guy, and he obviously he's just a special teamer. He doesn't get a lot of recognition. I mean, obviously he goes to a lot of Pro Bowls, that's for sure, but he doesn't get a lot of recognition because he doesn't score a lot of touchdowns. I want to say he only has one touchdown in this 14-year career or something like that. I don't know how long he's been playing, but he only has one touchdown in these multiple Pro Bowls. Definitely think he should go down in the Hall of Fame. He's one of those special teams guys that should definitely go get into the Hall of Fame.
Well, we hope so as well. LeGarrette Blount, former Patriots running back, 9-year NFL career, 2 different stints with the Pats, parts of 4 seasons in New England, won 2 Super Bowls here, 1 in Philly, and now his mission is to get his products, LG's Feel Good, into every pro sports locker room, safe, effective, and helping to mitigate your pain. So, LeGarrette, we appreciate it. Good luck with the new business ventures, and we look forward to catching up in the future.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you having me on. Absolutely.
Appreciate LeGarrette Blount coming on as well. Again, he's got his new CBD products. He's trying to, and look, applause to him, right? I know it's a business venture, but applause to him for trying to get the opioids and painkillers out of the game. And yeah, CBD, if he's figured out a way to do it safe and effectively, then I'm all for looking at things that get players away from opioids and painkillers. So LGS Feel Good. That is his brand there. Great stuff. I mean, then on the football stuff, a ton for us to react to. We're so heavy in the show today with Red Sox, and we got Red Sox baseball tomorrow that I think we're going to have kind of a half show. We may have to wait to fully react to what LeGarrette Blount had to say until Monday. But ding, ding, ding. Isn't that what I've been saying about the Patriots offensive coordinator strategy, that they need a full-time offensive coordinator and somebody who can bring some innovation? LeGarrette Blount, I believe his exact words were, no comment on Joe Judge. I don't know how he got there on the offensive side of the ball. Now, he did say that Belichick will coach guys up to be competent on a certain side of the ball. I mean, so that should make you feel good to a degree, but he said no comment on Joe Judge. So we got a lot to react to from LeGarrette Blount. We'll do it either tomorrow or Monday. Peter in Williston on the text line. LeGarrette Blount said exactly what I've been saying too, except with greater clarity and precision. Patriots offense is in trouble with Patricia and Judge calling plays. Great interview. Phil in Middlesex says, Brady, great interview with LeGarrette Blount, a real tough running back with speed. Again, that was Phil in Middlesex. Thanks to everybody for the compliments on that. We'll take more of your input on LeGarrette Blount, and then we'll come back. How much pressure is on Ime Udoka, the Celtics head coach, as we head to the playoffs? That's next on DEV.
96.1 WDEV FM Warren, 96.5 W243 AT Barrie, 98.3 W252 CU Montpelier, AM 550 WDEV Waterville.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Dell Small Business. I'm Matt Piper in New York. Russia says its flagship missile cruiser ship has sunk after an explosion off Ukraine's coast. Ukraine says its forces hit it with a missile strike, though Russia only says it sunk due to a fire. Pentagon spokesman John Kirby.
It's going to have an impact on their capabilities, certainly in the near term. Whether it has an impact on their naval capabilities in the long term is just unclear right now.
Its entire crew of 500 had to be evacuated. He could spend the rest of his life behind bars. Frank James made his first court appearance. He's the man police say shot 10 people, injuring even more during a rampage on the New York City subway Tuesday. CBS's Pat Milton says he's being held without bail.
The prosecutor told the judge that the attack was premeditated and carefully planned and caused terror among the victims and the entire city. At the request of James' attorney, the judge ordered a psychiatric exam for James.
Could Twitter soon be owned by Elon Musk?
The founder of Tesla explained why he has his eyes on the social media platform during a TED Talk in Vancouver.
Twitter has become kind of the de facto town square. Really important that people have both the reality and the perception. They are able to speak freely within the bounds of the law.
Elon Musk is already the largest shareholder in Twitter. His proposal would cost around $43 billion. He says Twitter needs to be transformed into a private company. The news, though, had little effect on Twitter stock. It was down, but just by 77 cents. Steve Futterman, CBS News.
It could be another night of protests in Michigan. We are hearing from officials a day after video was released of a black man being shot and killed by police just last week.
The family of Patrick Leoya is calling for the Grand Rapids police officer who shot in the head and killed the 26-year-old during a traffic stop to be charged. Leoya family attorney Ben Crump calls it unnecessary, unjustifiable, excessive use of fatal force.
Another senseless killing of a black person in America.
Kent County Commissioner Robert Womack.
From the time we come to this country, we call home. We've been begging you just to let us live. We've been asking you to let us breathe.
Leoya's death and the video release have sparked protests. Michigan State Police are investigating the shooting. Jennifer Kuiper, CBS News.
To Florida, where Governor Ron DeSantis has signed a 15-week abortion ban bill into law.
This is a time where these babies have beating hearts. They can move, they can taste, they can see, they can feel pain, they can suck their thumbs.
It begins July 1st. On Wall Street, the Dow lost 113. The NASDAQ was down 293. This is CBS News.
Dell Technologies advisors are here with the right Windows PC and tech solutions so you can stop at nothing for your customers. Call an advisor today at 877-ASK-DELL. A start to a simpler experience with Windows 11 Pro.
This is a metaphor for your business's journey. Sometimes it feels like the course keeps changing right before your eyes. And in order to maneuver it, you need an expert by your side. That's what Dell Technologies advisors do. They have the Windows PC and tech solutions you need to help you get out in front and stay ahead of the game. Call an advisor today at 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL. A start to a simpler experience with Windows 11 Pro.
At CDW, we get you can't lock up your devices. Your workforce needs the freedom to roam.
Final boarding call, flight 555 to New York.
And wherever they go, productivity is key. But with Microsoft Surface devices pre-configured and deployed by CDW experts, you'll get multi-layered security and seamless experiences to help productivity really take off. IT orchestration by CDW. People who get it. Find out more at cdw.com/surface.
What's done more to improve overall health and wellness? Modern medicine or personal hygiene? Actually, it's both. But considering that bathing went mainstream in the 1800s and brushing your teeth in the 1900s, isn't it time for something new, like cleaning your nose? After all, your nose is the body's air filter for trapping dirt and germs, the first line of defense against allergens, bacteria, and viruses from getting into your lungs. But how do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage isn't medicine, it's more like plumbing. Navage uses powered suction to pull saline in one nostril to the very back of the nose where germs can get trapped and multiply, and then out the other nostril, flushing out mucus and microbes so you can breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. Join over 2 million others and find out for yourself how refreshing and easy to use Navage is. At Navage.com, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, and Target. Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
Make your opinion heard by texting onto the Brady Farkas Show at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Thanks to LeGarrette Blount, former Patriots running back with us here, who was just with us a couple of minutes ago. Full interview already available on our podcast channel on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. Good stuff, too, about culture and the culture in Philly. Yeah, remember the Lane Johnson comments after that Super Bowl? And I was there, not at the game, but that Super Bowl week in Minneapolis. And all we could talk about after I returned, in addition to the Patriots' loss, was Lane Johnson's comments on how the Patriots have no fun. And LeGarrette Blount was like, look, man, it was very different in Philly. You certainly could act differently because, look, I loved both places. I loved being in Philly when we won, and I loved being in New England when we won. You can win in more than one way. There is not just one culture that is the right culture. He said, look, New England is not for everybody, but it was for me. I was not immune to the hard work. So I thought LeGarrette Blount was awesome, and appreciate him coming on. Celtics are getting ready for the Brooklyn Nets on Sunday. Game 1 is 3:30. And I got to say, I don't think there's any pressure at all on Celtics head coach Ime Udoka in this series or in these playoffs. I do think there's a ton of pressure on Jason Tatum, but I don't think there's any pressure on Ime Udoka. Let's start with Udoka. Chris Mannix of NBC Sports Boston, he agrees with me. He doesn't see a lot of pressure at all on Udoka either.
I think there's pressure on Ime, not necessarily as far as it goes up against Steve Nash in terms of matching wits with Nash, but there's pressure to kind of continue what the Celtics have done over the last 3 months of the season. You look at the numbers since January 1st, they are the best defensive team by a country mile when it comes to a lot of these efficiency statistics. Ime's job is going to make sure that without Robert Williams in the lineup, they can maintain that same level of defensive consistency.
Do you think there's pressure on Ime Udoka in this series, in these playoffs? 802-585-3026. Because I don't. I don't think there's pressure on him to outcoach Steve Nash. I don't think there's pressure on him at all, really. Like, of course, I'm not stupid or naive, at least most of the time. I know there are expectations on this Celtics team. I know the Celtics want to win. But you are playing the Brooklyn Nets. You are playing the Brooklyn Nets almost at full strength. The Nets were a lot of people's Eastern Conference champions before the season, and I see people like Chris Broussard of Fox Sports 1 picking the Brooklyn Nets now to win the Eastern Conference. So, look, the Celtics are not the Vegas underdogs, but they are the underdogs to a lot of people. I think that Ime Udoka has a bit of an out here. I think he has a bit of a pass here. People are smart enough to recognize how weird this season is from a seeding perspective. If this were a normal year and they're taking on, Charlotte, who is, right around 500, and then there would be pressure. You can't lose to that team as a 7 seed. But if you are taking on Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, and a team that a lot of people picked at the beginning of the year to go to the NBA Finals, if you're taking on that team, I think there are a lot of people who are flat out just expecting you to lose. If Ime Udoka loses this series or wins this series but then loses in the next one, I think he's got kind of a free pass here. Now, if you think I'm wrong, let me know, but that's how I see it. If he loses to Brooklyn, I'm going to chalk it up and say, damn, Celtics got unlucky. They got unlucky that they had to take on Kyrie and Durant in the first round, and in a normal year, that wouldn't have happened. So if they lose in the first round, that's how I'm going to look at it. If they beat the Nets and then go on and lose, I'm going to say, you know what? They beat Kyrie and Durant in the first round. That's pretty darn good for a first-year head coach. Okay. They've kind of they've accomplished something. So I don't see myself looking down upon the job that Ime Udoka has done, really, no matter what happens. You cannot get swept by Brooklyn. You probably can't get gentlemen swept by Brooklyn. I guess your immunity from criticism, to me at least, begins if you lose in 6 or 7 to Brooklyn. If you lost in 6 or 7, though, is anybody really surprised? Would anybody really be surprised? I see myself giving Ime Udoka a pass on a lot of stuff in these playoffs. Frankly, I think Steve Nash is under way more pressure than Ime Udoka. He was the better player, so he's got the better name recognition in the first place. He was the guy with no coaching experience heading into his head coaching job with the Nets. He's the guy who dealt with the locker room turmoil behind the scenes this year with the trade of James Harden, the acquisition of Ben Simmons. He's been under the microscope all year for those moves and the Kyrie vaccine stuff. And the Nets were the team with all the expectations. So all of that factors in. All of the coaching pressure for me, at least from the outside, is on Nash. And I don't even think that it's close. He's got Durant. He's got Kyrie. He's got the more accelerated timeline given those guys' age and now some injury history with them as well. I mean, Kyrie's 30. Durant's past 30. The window is not open forever for the Nets, and it's not open forever for Nash with this team. That's an aging roster in a lot of ways and an injury-riddled roster at times as well. Steve Nash is the guy with the pressure. Ime Udoka is the guy who's got the generally young roster who you could see being right back here again next year. Tatum, under 25. Brown, I think 25. Smart, under 30. Peyton Pritchard, young. Aaron Nesmith, young. Robert Williams, young. I mean, the Celtics are a relatively young team. They have older components in Tyson Horford, but generally, they're pretty young. Steve Nash is the guy with the pressure. As far as Ime Udoka goes, I really think the biggest pressure for him comes internally because every coach in the NBA, in the modern NBA, now is under pressure to keep their star players happy. And if you are the Celtics and you lose to Brooklyn or you falter at some point in these playoffs, you just always run the risk of your stars being unhappy. So I think the internal pressure of trying to do enough to satisfy your young core, that is far greater to me than outside pressure that Ime Udoka might be under. Because for me, again, I'm going to give him a pass on a lot of stuff. You lose to Brooklyn in the first round, I throw my hands up and say, damn, that was an unlucky matchup. You beat Brooklyn but lose to, you lose in the second round. I'm like, okay, well, hey, they beat Brooklyn. They beat Durant and Kyrie. They did an awful lot. They won 50 games. They knocked out Durant and Kyrie. That's pretty good. I don't see myself really getting on Ime Udoka unless they get swept or lose in 5 to Brooklyn. It's the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. If Robert Williams was 100%, I'd feel certain that the Celtics were going to win. He is going to play. There is a rumor that he's going to play at the end of the series. We don't know that to be true. Says that I also see the Celtics advancing past Brooklyn. Udoka is going to outcoach Nash in crucial moments late in games. That comes on the Napa Morrisville Napa Waterbury text line, 802-585-3026. For me, no pressure on Udoka. But I do see pressure on Jason Tatum. Tim Legler of ESPN, he also does too.
Biggest moment of his career, biggest stage of his career. You want a seat at the table? You want a seat at that table with those guys we talk about all the time? This is it. You've got to go out there. You don't have to be better than Kevin Durant every single night. That's not going to happen. Kevin Durant's too good. But you have to match him in this series. If we're continually talking about Kevin Durant throughout this series and how great he is, that's a problem for Boston. We need to be talking about Jason Tatum after these games.
That I agree with wholeheartedly. While I don't think there's any pressure outside on Ime Udoka, I think there's a lot of pressure on Jason Tatum. If Tatum wants to be recognized in the light that he wants to be recognized in, he has to have a great series. We do have to be looking at him at times, several times in this series, and saying, that's the best guy on the floor. Because right now, instinct tells me that Durant is the better player, and we're going to be looking at that floor in all of these games saying, Brooklyn's got the best player. That's what my instinct tells me. If Tatum wants to move into top 7, top 5 territory, we need to be looking at him and saying, you know what? Celtics got the best player on the floor right now. Legler's right. We won't say that every minute of the series. But if we're saying it for good portions of the series or for long stretches of the series, then that's going to bode well for Tatum. I know he wants to be seen in a top 5 light. He's irked he didn't get all NBA last year and get his $30 million. He's irked by how people have voted for him in the past for things. He wants the respect. He wants to be in that conversation. He needs to be a guy who can answer Durant shots. He needs to be a guy who can finish in the fourth quarter when the Celtics have a lead. He needs to be able to go to the hoop. He needs to be able to hit from outside. He needs to not settle. It's a balancing act between getting his but also keeping the team involved. But if Tatum, when the Celtics need a response, Tatum has to be a guy that they can go to and that they can count on. And Tatum has to be capable of giving that response. The pressure is on him. Durant, LeBron, Kawhi Leonard, Giannis, Kyrie, Steph Curry, Joel Embiid, Damian Lillard. We know that these are guys who can create, and we know that these are guys that can answer. Luka Doncic has shown that in his career as well. If you want to see Tatum in that conversation with those great players, then James Harden, you've got Chris Paul. You've got to be able to be big in the big moments. This is a huge coming out party for Jason Tatum. This is not Tatum as the young guy behind Isaiah Thomas. This is not Tatum as the young guy behind Kyrie Irving or with Gordon Hayward or, Jaylen Brown is out and now it's only Tatum. This isn't that. This is Tatum with Brown and a bunch of other good pieces around them, an elite defensive team that that can really accomplish something. Tatum needs to be the focal point of it. He needs to be the center of it. If he wants to be seen in the light that he wants to be seen in, then we've got to be looking at him a lot in this series and saying, you know what, the Celtics have the best player on the floor right now. No pressure on Udoka, good amount of pressure in my mind on Jason Tatum. It's the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. All right, we do it every single day. Let's get to Who's Saying What.
Whoa. What did he say?
Mac Jones. Good Lord. Mel Kiper's got to slow down on this. Mac Jones ain't going to work, folks. It's not going to work. He's got to come to terms with it. It's not going to work.
They really said that?
Every damn thing is politics and race, and I'm losing my mind over it.
It's time for Who's Saying What on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Who's Saying What is brought to you by Vermont Laser Wash. That's Central Vermont's home of unlimited car washes. Unlimited car washes. The package begins at just $20 a month. If you want just one free car wash, well, just text the word Vermont to the number 30 and then 400. So I'm sure by now you have heard this story and have seen this controversy. Clayton Kershaw was pitching last night, or yesterday afternoon rather, for the Dodgers. They were in Minnesota taking on the Twins, and Clayton Kershaw had a perfect game through 7 innings. And in having that perfect game through 7 innings, he threw just 80 pitches. And his manager, Dave Roberts, pulled him from the game with a chance to go for the perfect game. And people on social media reacted exactly like you think that they would. Baseball can't get out of its own way. How'd you not let him go for the perfect game? They need to make baseball players like they used to. These guys are soft. Seaver and Nolan Ryan and Koufax, they never would have come out of the game. The front office and the analytics, they're ruining the game. There's only been 23 perfect games in history. He could have made more history. Come on, let him go for it. That's what all of social media was saying. That's what people in my inner circle were saying about Clayton Kershaw getting taken out. Here's what Kershaw himself said about not being allowed to go for history.
Yeah, it's hard. I feel bad for Barnesy. Barnesy did such a great job, and it's fun to get to catch one of those. And so I wanted to do it with Barnesy. It'd be special. And but at the end of the day, those are individual things. Those are selfish goals, and we're trying to win. And that's really all we're here for. And as much as I would have wanted to do it, I've thrown 75 pitches in a sim game. And I hadn't gone 6 innings, let alone 7. And sure, I would have loved to do it, but maybe we get another chance. Who knows?
Can we put the pitchforks away now, please? Can we stop ripping managers and front offices and analytics? You just heard Kershaw say that he's okay with it. If he's okay with it, then can't you be okay with it? Yes, I'm sure baseball was better back in the day. There are certainly parts of it that I agree with were better back in the day. There's lots of examples to prove that in my mind, but this isn't one of them. If Kershaw's fine with coming out, then I am fine with him coming out. At this point in Clayton Kershaw's career, I have to think that staying healthy and being able to contribute to a World Series winning roster, that is the most important thing to him. Clayton Kershaw is 34 years old. Clayton Kershaw has a gazillion innings on that arm and on that body. He has not made 30 starts in a season since 2015. It's been a long time. He's been broken down, back, shoulder, might have had an elbow in there too. Kershaw has been hurt a lot over the last couple of years. I don't need, if he's telling, he said, look, all I've done is throw 75 pitches in a simulated game, basically a glorified bullpen session. So he was already at 80 real pitches. If he is saying all I've done is throw 75 pitches in a glorified bullpen, I don't need to run him out there for 110 in his first start of the year to chase a perfect game and risk him going on the shelf this early yet again. If this were June 1st and Clayton Kershaw were 12 starts into his season, then I would be in the same camp as all of you. I would say that baseball was soft and that Dave Roberts made the wrong choice. But in this case, I think Dave Roberts made the exact choice he should have made. He was protecting his player. Clayton Kershaw wants to win the World Series. He wants to be here for the entirety of the season. And his first start in April in Minnesota, where it's freezing and windy, is not worth jeopardizing all of that. It is not worth jeopardizing all of that. I know that pitchers aren't handled the way they were in the past. I know that it's not as fun to watch as it once was. But in this case, it was the right choice. Kershaw has won multiple Cy Youngs. He's thrown a no-hitter before. He's done a bunch of the great individual things. And while he also has won a World Series, I think that winning a second one is more important to him. And I think being on the field as his team chases that second World Series is more important to him. And did you see Yu Darvish recently? Yu Darvish of the Padres on opening day. I was watching this. He was playing the Diamondbacks. He threw 6 no-hit innings. And the Padres let him throw all 6 innings. And he threw 92 pitches, I believe, on opening day. And I was thinking to myself, oh boy, 92 pitches on opening day? Like, this guy probably hasn't thrown more than 4 innings in a spring training start. And here he is throwing 92 pitches. So I'm thinking to myself, is that healthy? Well, Yu Darvish, I can't say that he's unhealthy, but his next start out, he gave up 9 runs in an inning and 2/3. Maybe they're correlated, maybe they're not. But maybe he stretched himself so far on opening day with the no-hitter that it really did cause a lingering effect his next time out, where he got absolutely killed by the San Francisco Giants. Just not worth it. Perfection is great. History is great. Nothing is more important than Clayton Kershaw's health and his goals. And his goals are to be there for the entirety of the season for his team. I really liked what Colin Cowherd of Fox Sports Radio had to say about this on Twitter. And he put it very succinctly. He said, the health and well-being of the athlete and his future, believe it or not, is more important than your enjoyment of his talent or the history of the game. I could not have said it better myself. Clayton Kershaw, arm and back problems. No, hasn't made 30 starts since 2015. He wants to try to be the workhorse that he once was. And burning him out on April 13th just so he can go for a no-hitter he's not prepared physically to go for yet, that's not the way to help him accomplish what he wants. If he's fine with it, then I'm fine with it. And if he's fine with it, then you should be fine with it. Because everybody on Twitter was, baseball stinks, this wouldn't have happened in 73, this wouldn't have happened in 84, and that's fine. But it is 2022, and this particular player in that weather, in this early in the season, in his first start, wasn't ready to go for it. June 1st, I'd be with you. I'd be raising the pitchforks also, yelling at the moon about the glory days. But it's April 13th yesterday. It was not the time for Clayton Kershaw to go for it. Text in on the Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line. Maybe the Dodgers learned something years after they helped ruin Josh Beckett's career when he was allowed to complete a 128-pitch no-hitter versus the Phillies in 2014. I don't remember all of that specifically. Again, a guy throwing 128 pitches when it's 88 degrees on July 5th, that doesn't really bother me when a guy is built for it. But Clayton Kershaw right now is not built for it. Let's check in on social media. The bonuses are a lot different than back in the day. Players' contracts are set up so they make more money further in the playoffs they go. So he's saying basically, I think that Kershaw is, I don't know if he's talking about Kershaw or Tatum at this point. We're talking about both, but I would say that Clayton Kershaw is doing well in the money department no matter what. He doesn't need any kind of financial incentive to have thrown a perfect game. I think he'd rather, win the World Series. So, final score of that game ended up, by the way, let me see, was it 2-0? Guys, can we get the verification on that? Let's see. The final score of that game was 7-0. It was 2-0 at one point, but it ended up 7-0. The Twins got one hit in that one. So, 7-0, and that game was in Minneapolis, as I said. And trust me, as a Mariners fan, you know this. I watched the Mariners and Twins their first three games. 48 and windy. That's not the spot to be sending Clayton Kershaw out there for. So, all right. We'll step aside. We'll come back. And then when we come back, we've been focusing so much on the Rafael Devers contract situation from the Red Sox side. Let's look at it a little bit differently. What would it take for Rafael Devers to actually warrant a $350 million contract? Some of you don't want to give it to him. The Red Sox right now don't want to give him that much money. They've offered over $200 million. What would it take for Rafael Devers to be worth $350 million? I've got my thoughts. We'll take yours as well. That's next on WDEV.
WDEV at 90 is brought to you in part by New England Municipal Resource Center, NEMRIC, a company that recognizes the value of Vermont and all things local, municipalities, businesses, and WDEV.
Hi, everyone. This is Jess Langlois
and Chief Meteorologist Dan Dowling
from the Channel 3 Max Advantage Weather Team, reminding you that every day we are tracking the weather and getting you the most accurate forecast
from the most experienced weather team tonight from 4 to 7 and at 11 p.m.
We forecast with straight talk and no hype,
so you can take advantage of the clear days
and have the advantage over stormy weather.
There's a 100% chance of accurate, experienced, and trusted forecast
tonight and every night from the Channel 3 Max Advantage Weather Team.
First in weather.
Do you have chronic joint pain, like in your knees and hips? It's time to think about an exciting new way to treat joint pain with biologic therapies, regenerative solutions. I'm talking about QC Kinetics, now available here. Lots of people here have called QC Kinetics already. They are the nation's leader in helping people deal with chronic pain with no surgery, no drugs, no steroids, and no downtime. These natural pain treatments can actually repair and restore damaged tissue in your joints with long-lasting results. I'm telling you, Biologic Solutions help your body heal itself. If you have joint pain due to arthritis, lower back pain, shoulder pain, you need to change the way you think about pain treatments and discover the biologic therapies at QC Kinetics. Get moving again, get your life back with no surgery and no drugs. Call QC Kinetics now to learn more. 802-PAINLESS. That's 802-PAINLESS.
At Northfield Savings Bank, we celebrate the ways you work and why you work. To build a business, to make a brighter future, to do something that matters. You don't do just one thing in your business. Neither do we. Whatever your size, you have goals for yourself and those around you. Our commitment is helping you get there. Builders, makers, doers. Northfield Savings Bank. Find out more about us at nsbvt.com. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
My mother was very familiar with her neighborhood, but one day she stopped at the stop sign and she wasn't even really sure where she was at.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Just because you're away from your radio or out of our broadcast range doesn't mean you have to miss out. Listen live on the WDEV stream, brought to you by AARP Vermont. WDEV's morning, midday, and afternoon news services, Vermont Viewpoint, and the Brady Farkas Show can all be found on the WDEV stream at WDEVradio.com. Brought to you by AARP Vermont, working to bring down the cost of prescription drugs for all Americans. AARP.org/VT.
Want Brady to hear your opinion on the sports stories of the day? Text in at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Show brought to you by Pro Driver Training. That's Pro Driver Training, Vermont's premier truck driver training school, where they're online at ProDriverCDL.com. Again, that's ProDriverCDL.com. They can help you on your Class A CDL, your Class B CDL, passenger and advanced skills training as well. Facilities in Enosburg and Milton. That could be the next best step in your career. So again, ProDriverCDL.com. What would it take for Rafael Devers to actually be worth $350 million? We focus so much on what the Red Sox offer actually was, and their offer was in the $200 million. That's what we know right now. Buster Olney of ESPN told us earlier this week he thinks Devers is fair to look for an offer of about $350.
When you see the trajectory of where he is, the fact that he's now within 18 months of free agency, how successful he's been early in his career, I think it's appropriate for him to, be dreaming about a deal in the mid-300s, quite frankly.
So the Red Sox haven't offered that deal. They've offered significantly less than that. A lot of fans, when they hear $350, they roll their eyes and they cringe. That's a lot of money. I don't want to pay that. What would it take for Rafael Devers to actually be worth $350 million? For me, I don't think $350 is really that unrealistic. Given Devers' age, Buster's point, his trajectory, given his durability, given his offensive profile, given the comparisons to others that have hit the market in recent years, I really don't think it's unrealistic. But if you are not sold yet, what can Rafael Devers do to convince you that he is worth that money? If you are Chaim Bloom, if you are Red Sox ownership, what do you want to see Rafael Devers do to prove that he is worth that kind of commitment? For me, I'd give it to him, but for me, there are 5 things that I think Devers can do to solidify that he is worth that money. 1, easy. He needs to simply continue on the same offensive trajectory that he's on right now. He needs to just keep doing what he's doing. Be a guy that can hit 40 home runs, that can smack 40 doubles, that can bring in 100 runs, and who can drive the middle of an order. And he needs to be that guy who you believe can drive the middle of an order, because JD Martinez is not going to be here that much longer. Xander Bogaerts might not be here. So some of that padding that Devers has had in the lineup, that is going to be gone. You need to believe that Devers can drive an offense, and he needs to keep doing what he's been doing over the last year and now in change into this year. I believe that he can do it. It's another reason why I already believe he's worth that money. And offense now is something that you pay for in baseball. Offense has become so fleeting and has become so hard to come by, and pitching has gotten so good. Consistent offense now is so valuable, and if Devers can provide it, then you need to pay for it. Here's Jeff Passan of ESPN on WEEI yesterday.
He is an elite hitter, and man, I love watching him hit, whether it's off the monster, whether it's yanking it down the line, or whether it's having the power to go dead center at Fenway. The guy does everything. And seeing someone like that in his prime, I get why Red Sox fans want him to stick around long term, because they should.
Keep doing what you're doing. That, to me, is the number one thing that Devers needs to do in order to justify that kind of price tag. Keep doing what you're doing offensively. Number two, if Rafael Devers is going to get that kind of money, he needs to prove that he can still play defense. He's got to keep improving defensively, because I would be hesitant about paying $350 million to a guy that profiles as solely a DH sooner rather than later. It's one thing to put a guy at DH when they're 37. It's another thing to stick a guy at DH when they're 29. Rafael Devers needs to keep getting better defensively. He needs to keep being able to play a position for the long term. Third base, first base, it's got to be a position, because I cannot pay that kind of coin for a guy who is going to transition to DH in the pretty immediate future. Passan said also about the defense.
If he is a third baseman and an average third baseman, if he can get his glove to that point, then he's a $300 million player. If the glove doesn't improve and he needs to move over to first base, there's never been a $300 million first baseman, and the ones who have made large sums of money tend to have been really, really bad.
Look at the majority of guys who have gotten paid a lot of money. Mike Trout, center fielder. Corey Seager, shortstop. Francisco Lindor, shortstop. Mookie Betts, gold glover. They are gold glove caliber players, or they are players at premium positions. Devers is not a gold glover. He does not play right now a premium defensive position. He's got to prove that he can stick, number one, in the field, and number two, be good enough in the field to stay on the field and won't get shuttled off to DH soon. I wouldn't pay a closer as much as I would pay a starter. I cannot pay a DH as much as I could pay a two-way player. If Devers wants to prove he's worth $350 million, he's got to be able to stick in the field. That's the second thing that Devers needs to do. The third thing goes along kind of with numbers 1 and 2. He needs to prove that he can stay in shape, and he needs to prove that when he came in out of shape in 2020 in the COVID year, that was a mirage. That was the outlier. Prove that you can stay in shape, prove that you can stay motivated, and if you do that, then number 1 and number 2 will happen much, much easier. If Devers stays in good shape, then he will be able to remain the player he is offensively, and he will be able to continue to improve defensively. He looks great physically right now. Keep that up, and the other things will come easy. If he goes backwards in that regard and you start to worry he's going to balloon like Pablo Sandoval, then you would have real hesitancy about giving him big dollars. The number 4 thing that Devers needs to be able to do is do the thing he's been doing throughout his entire career. He needs to remain durable. If he wants $350 million, he cannot afford to be a player who who shows injury concerns, because the number one thing that can scare a front office away from paying somebody big money is health concerns. You cannot get injured really in the next 2 years if you're Rafael Devers. He's been durable throughout his career thus far. It's going to need to stay that way. Look at the Yankees right now with Aaron Judge. What is scaring them off? Age is part of it. Injury history is another part of it. Why are you not why do players not want, or why do front offices not want to give pitchers huge contracts? They're afraid of injury. Rafael Devers needs to stay healthy to justify a big price tag. And number 5, Rafael Devers has to be a little more vocal. He's got to be a little more out there. He's got to be a little more available. He needs to show up a little more in the community, because people who hand out $350 million checks, they are paying for you to not only be a great player, they are paying for you to be the face of a franchise. They are paying for you to be a great ambassador. That's a little less important to me. Like in football, the quarterback, yeah, he's the CEO. I don't quite expect that from my third baseman, but guys who hand out $350 million checks, they tend to think that way. Devers is quiet. Devers is not out that much. He did an interview the other day on Nesson after the game with his translator. That was good to see him, but we don't see Devers out that much. The people who write checks like that, they generally will probably want to see that change. They want to see you in commercials. They want to see you on the cover of video games. They want to see you showing up at community events. They're going to want to see you out. So that, to me, is the 5 things that Rafael Devers would need to do. I would give him the money already. Like, I don't know. No, I think he's better than Corey Seager, and Corey Seager got $325. I think he, now with inflation, is probably right in that Francisco Lindor $341 category. So I'd give him big money. But if you're not sold yet, then I think the 5 things you need to see from him are continued growth defensively, keep up what he's doing offensively, stay healthy, stay in shape, and be just a little more vocal and a little more available. I'll close the book on the Devers conversation here in a second, but Buster Olney said something to us earlier this week that was actually very interesting to me.
You know, Bryce Harper got $330 million at age 26. That's where Rafi's going to be when he's a free agent, 26, 27. That's absolutely where he is as a player.
So Bryce Harper gets $330 million. And I think it was generally accepted that Bryce Harper was going to get a ton of money. It was generally accepted that Bryce Harper was going to command huge dollars and that he was going to get more than $300 million. That was generally accepted by fans and by the industry. Why is it generally accepted that Bryce Harper was going to get that kind of money, but not everybody is sold yet on giving Rafael Devers that kind of money, even though, as Buster says, he's in the same category of player? And it was a very interesting question. And I think for me, the answer is here. We've been hearing about Bryce Harper since he was 16 years old. Like LeBron James, Bryce Harper was in Sports Illustrated. Harper challenged the system and wanted to play college ball before he was in college. So he had a little bit of controversy to him. He had a story around him already. He was the number 1 pick in the draft. So we had been following Bryce Harper's every move for years before he got to the majors. There was a hype around Bryce Harper that just wasn't there and hasn't been there with Devers. As good as Devers is, he didn't come with the hype. And people always had it in their mind from 16 years old on that Harper was a star, whereas Devers is just now kind of growing into being a star. There is a loudness with Bryce Harper. Again, star quality. I think about this less than others. I really do. But owners of teams, they see sports as entertainment. I see sports as competition, right? But owners of teams, they see it as entertainment. They think of it as an entertainment business. And with Bryce Harper, there's a loudness and there is an entertainment factor. So an owner looks at signing Harper and sees dollar signs that are going to go back into their pockets because Harper's going to fill seats. I don't think Devers has that kind of magnetism right now. And then finally, why we accept paying Harper, but people will not accept paying Devers yet, is that Harper was not very good, by the way, two of his last 3 years in Washington. He hit 243 and 249 2 of his last 3 years with the Nationals, but he did have the resume that Devers doesn't have right now. Harper won Rookie of the Year. Devers didn't. He won MVP while he was in Washington. So there was a perception of him as proven where I think people are now just starting to realize how good Devers is. So that's why I think Harper kind of got the pass into getting $300 million, and Devers takes some convincing to people. It doesn't have to convince me. I would do it. But he's got to convince some of the fans, and he's got to convince the Red Sox front office. He does not have the star quality. He does not have the hype machine or the years of us following his every move like Bryce Harper had. This is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. As the Celtics get ready to take on the Brooklyn Nets, Game 1 is on Sunday. I'll tell you why I'm mildly concerned about the impact that Ben Simmons could have in this series. Mildly concerned. I'll tell you what scares me about Simmons potentially playing for the Nets. That's next on DEV.
Did you know that Chips Auto in Randolph carries Nokian tires?
No kidding.
No, Nokian, creators of the first snow tire, and Chips Auto sells, mounts, and balances them.
No kidding.
No, Nokian. And Chips Auto in Randolph has an alignment machine to keep your Nokian tires going straight.
No kidding?
No, Nokian at Chips Auto. Full-service auto repair and tire services. Weston Street, Randolph. Online at chipsautoandtire.com.
How many of you have pets? My hand's raised. Now think about how lucky you are to have such a sweet little pet in your life, and that pet is lucky to have you too. But unfortunately, there are countless pets out there that don't have a home to call their own. However, Bob's from Skechers is trying to change that. So we developed Bob's for dogs and cats to help pets in need. With every purchase of adorable Bob's footwear or fun, stylish apparel, or even the cutest Bob's pet accessories, Skechers makes a donation to Petco Love to help save shelter pets. And with your help, we've already saved the lives of over 1 million pets and donated over $7 million. So while you're getting style and comfort with features like Skechers' famous memory foam cushioning, you're also helping to save an adorable pet in need and helping another lucky owner be connected with a future best friend and companion, because happiness is having a loving pet by your side. Find Bob's at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, select Petco locations, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
There's nothing like hearing the songs you love on local radio with no subscriptions and no monthly fees. But there's a new bill in Congress that could stop the music. If passed, this bill would tax your local radio station simply to play the music you love. Text LOCAL to 52886 and ask Congress to support local radio stations. Help us keep you connected to the music, local news, weather, and traffic that you need each day. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Host families in the central Vermont area are needed to house the players of your Vermont Mountaineers. If you have space in your home, please consider becoming a host. All players are fully vaccinated and boosted. Players will have their own transportation, and dinner is provided on game nights. What's in it for you? How about free season tickets and free baseball camps for kids or grandkids? If interested, email host families at thevermontmountaineers.com.
Go, 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 Mountaineers.
Congratulations to Kip Bovey of Elmore, our first winner of the season in the Red Sox Fairness to Fans contest at WDEV. We're giving away another pair of tickets on Friday for next Thursday's game against the Toronto Blue Jays. To enter, fill out the contest form at WDEVradio.com, then tune in Friday during the noon hour. If we call your name, you'll have 5 minutes and 50 seconds to call in and win the LaRue Brothers Transmissions Fairness to Fans machine, only on WDEV. The Brady Farkas Show now has an interactive text line, so reach out now at 802-585-3026.
This is former NFL wide receiver Keyshawn Johnson, and now we're back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV Radio and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. There you go. Thank you very much, Keyshawn. True story. We've actually had that Keyshawn voiceover in the hopper for like 8 months. And I just finally put it together this week. We had a boatload of new returns for the show, as we call those things, returns. And I've had that Keyshawn one in the hopper for 8 months and finally got it put together. So appreciate him doing that. Got a text in on the Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line about what we were just talking about. Great points on Bryce Harper and Rafael Devers, Brady. Says, sorry I text too much. We've had a couple texts from Peter. No, we like texts on the Brady Farkas Show. So, all right. I got to admit, the Celtics don't appear to be concerned about Ben Simmons. I am mildly concerned about the impact that Ben Simmons could have in this upcoming playoff series. Now, Shams Charania of The Athletic came out and said that Simmons is hoping to play between games 4 and 6. I was worried he might be ready for game 1. So game 4 and 6, I don't know what the complexion of the series is going to look like, but I am mildly concerned about the impact that Simmons could have. I don't think that Ben Simmons is a great basketball player. I don't think that he's a max contract player. And I don't think he's a face of the franchise player. But that said, I think he could pop up in this series and have an impact. And that does worry me to a degree. He's a very good defensive player. He's very long. He comes out and he plays good defense. He's not really a threat to me at all offensively. But if he comes out and just is a tough new wrinkle for Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, he's got quickness, he's got length, he does have a desire to play defense. And with the Nets, he does not need to score. So he doesn't really have anything to save himself for offensively. So if he comes out, I think he can impact the game defensively. I don't know if he can play 5 minutes. I don't know if he can play 15 minutes, but he's a good defensive player. If he can create just a little bit of discomfort for the Celtics, that is something to take notice of. And offensively, he concerns me a little bit, not much. Again, he doesn't really score. He's not a guy who can shoot, but he is a good facilitator. If he's on the court for any period of time, maybe he can create something easier for Kevin Durant. He can get Kyrie Irving a blow that that he needs when, look, I'd like to see Kyrie have to play all 48 minutes and be exhausted by the end. If Ben Simmons can come in and play 4 minutes and give Kyrie a little bit of a breather, then that would be a benefit to Brooklyn. So I'm worried about the impact just mildly. He hasn't played a game in 12 months. I'm not worried about him taking over in any way. But if he can take just a little bit off the plate of Kyrie when it comes to ball handling, if he can take a little bit off the plate of Kevin Durant having to create for himself, and if he can play the defense that he's always played for even just a couple of minutes and cause a little bit of discomfort for the Celtics, then that would be a benefit for Brooklyn and therefore a detriment to Boston. So that is where my worry comes from in the form of Ben Simmons. We do get a text in late here on the Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line, 802-585-3026. Webster from Essex Junction. Come on, Brady. Even if Simmons plays and even if he is a good defender, the Nets still can't defend as a team. You know, that is interesting because I've actually been thinking about this. This team can't play defense narrative doesn't always hold up to me once the playoffs come around. And there's multiple reasons why. One, in the regular season, teams are disinterested in playing defense. You watch enough NBA games, that's very, very obvious. A lot of teams are disinterested in playing defense. In the playoffs, that's not the case. you will get a team's best effort defensively. Now, no one's going to confuse the Nets for the 96 Bulls defensively, but the Nets are going to be engaged. They're going to try in a way they didn't try in the regular season. So if you're expecting the Celtics to come out and put up 124 every game in this series, I don't think there's any way that it's going to happen. 2, in the regular season, bad numbers pile up and accumulate because teams sit guys. Guys are hurt. There's guys that attributed to those numbers that are no longer there. Like Kyrie didn't play a bunch of games. So the defense, Kyrie wasn't a part of it. Durant was out for a bunch of games. He's not a part of it. James Harden was playing there for a bunch of games. So bad metrics were created at a time when the team wasn't at full strength and had different personnel. The Nets will be at relative full strength in this series. And finally, in the regular season, teams are uninterested in defense because they're saving themselves for something else a lot of the time. They're saving themselves for the next night of the back-to-back, for the third game in 5 days. In the playoffs, that's not the case. There's ample time off. There are no back-to-backs. There is nothing to save yourself for. Again, I don't expect the Nets to come out and hold the Celtics to 79 points every night. But this idea that the Celtics are going to put up 128 religiously, I don't think that's true either. The Nets will have something to play for. They haven't had anything to play for all season. And they're going to have their full complement of guys that they want to have. There's nothing to save yourself for. So the numbers that were accumulated over the last 82 games of the regular season, I just don't see them being that porous. I hope I'm wrong. I hope the Celtics win every game 124 to 118. But I just don't think that that's going to be the case. I think you will see games in this series at 101 to 95. You might see a game under 100. You might see 97, 96. I don't think every game is going to be 128 to 126. So, all right, that's it for us. Look up at the clock. Time to go. Full show podcast available on the Apple Podcast app as well as Spotify, so you can check it out there. Just search for the Brady Farkas Show. Don't quite know what the deal is going to be tomorrow. Red Sox baseball, first pitch is 2:10. I figure we'll get on the air about 6 o'clock. Don't know, though. Could be a short game. Could be a long game. We'll be on when we're on. We'll recap what you saw as the Sox home opener against the Minnesota Twins. Our coverage begins tomorrow at 1:10. First pitch is 2:10. Nick Pivetta is on the mound for Boston as they take on the Twins. Thanks to LeGarrette and Blount for stopping by. We will see you tomorrow. The Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM and FM.
Hi, everyone. This is Jess Langlois.
And Chief Meteorologist Dan